They say that there can be no surah like it. I'm just not so sure that this is true. It's just like what they say about jihad. They say it's peace and then blow up me and you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with more of This Week in Jihad. The poetry is slamming, and Dr. David Wood is here with us, back straight from London.
Hey, how you? Oh, I just realized I should have been following your lead. I should have been using some ridiculous British accent or something.
So you were in London, and I do believe perhaps you could tell us a little
That's
bit
right,
about.
governor. That's right, governor.
If you would be so kind, really, perhaps you could fill us in a little bit about. It is what you Americans say. Fill us in, is it not? About some of your experiences in London.
Well, we went over for a spot of tea, innit it?
Yes, yes.
So
Did
people
you have
think,
crumpets?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what a crumpet is. I had a variety of things over there that I didn't know what they were. Um, but yeah, the most important thing I learned, Robert, was when you pose for a picture in America, people go like this. And that
Yeah.
means something totally different over there.
Oh, yikes.
After like 20, 30, 40, I don't know how many pictures with people where I did that. And I saw people laughing. I didn't know what they're laughing about. But that means like F you there. That's the same as the middle finger there. And tell me. They said you gotta go like this. But if you notice in pictures, they go like that with one finger. They do like a one finger thing. Because
Pretty
that
soon
means
they'll be
something
doing it
different.
this way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yep, yep.
No, Robert was actually pretty encouraging over there, if that sounds weird enough. Like you
Really?
walk around, yeah, you walk around, and yeah, tons and tons and tons of Muslims, and some of them perfectly nice and so on. But you know as well as I, they've got plenty of the radical ones there calling for Sharia. But every place we went, we got recognized way more than we do back here by both Muslims and non-Muslims. Like over here in the US, I get recognized like once or twice a month in a store or something like that at the airport. Over there, everywhere we went.
That's
Um,
great.
I mean, just walking down the street, a cab going by, cab driver starts yelling something at us. Um, you couldn't sit in a restaurant. People are coming up to us and stuff like that. So lots of people are paying attention. Lots of people are paying attention over there. Lots of people are actually studying. Lots of people are studying, going online, learning how to respond to Islam. And there are a bunch of young guys. There are a bunch of young Christian guys who are studying Islam, learning how to respond to Islam. They're they're extremely intelligent. They're becoming very well educated, and they are going out and just crushing these guys. And so, I mean, I'd seen videos of Speaker's Corner where there's like a Christian, the Christian's totally surrounded by like 50 Muslims shouting him down and stuff. Totally different when I was there. Christians dominated the entire place. Christians
Really?
completely dominated Speaker's Corner. Multiple videos, Muslims just running. I mean,
Wow.
actually just bolting. It was awesome. Awesome times.
Well, great. Well, welcome home and all that. And anyway, we got a lot of jihad here, David. We've both been on the
What?
road. And yeah, they just keep at it. I suppose the biggest attack of the week,
Hold on, hold on,
unfortunately,
hold on, hold
yes,
on, hold on. I'm like all these Western reporters in that I thought if we weren't reporting on it, there wouldn't be any. It
that
just
is
goes
what the
away.
that's what the
Just goes
establishment
away.
media hopes. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's all over the place. It's happening. We had in India, in Kashmir, a bus carrying Hindu pilgrims. Jihadis opened fire on it, murdering 10 people, at least at last count that I saw. And that, of course, has created quite an uproar in India because as you know, as regular watchers of this program know, there is quite a lot of jihad in India. And this is something we see all over the place where Muslims and non-Muslims live together in large numbers. Now, can you tell us what aren't there must be places where Muslims and non-Muslims live together in peace and harmony, right? In large numbers.
Yeah, well, if it works in Antarctica, why can't it work in the rest of the world, Robert?
Exactly. Exactly.
How much
This
jihad have you heard about in Antarctica? None. So if it works there, uh, why can't it work everywhere else?
mhm.
But I mean, at least, I mean, this is the attack in Jammu and Kashmir. At least there hasn't been any jihad there until now.
There has not been any jihad in Jammu and Kashmir. Unfortunately, it is yet another one of the areas like Gaza, like Israel, that jihadis are trying to expand the Dar al Islam at the expense of the Dar al Harb. So there has been ethnic cleansing of Hindus out of Jammu and Kashmir. There has been a tremendous amount of jihad violence there. But, David, I got another story out of there because Muslims are angry in Jammu and Kashmir today. And so maybe this is a sign of hope, right? They are enraged, as a matter of fact. And I think finally, when I saw Muslims are enraged in Kashmir, I thought, okay, finally we're going to start seeing all these moderate Muslims standing up that we've always heard about, that they're going to just about to do. It's just around the corner. The moderate Muslims are going to start standing up and fighting the jihadis and reclaiming their peaceful religion.
That is
Right?
exactly what we are told by ABC
Yeah.
News on their 2020 special. They said that peaceful Muslims, moderate Muslims, they're our first line of defense against the radical Muslims.
There you go.
They're our first line of defense. So yeah, I'm totally with you, Robert.
So I opened up the story about Muslims enraged in Jammu and Kashmir, and what did I see? I saw tourists in Srinagar drinking alcohol. That's why Muslims are enraged. 10 people were just killed, murdered brutally when Muslims opened fire on a bus. And they are angry because some tourists went to the same general area and they had a bottle of alcohol.
Wait a second. So you're saying people are more upset, the Muslim community is more upset about a bottle of alcohol than about slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah?
Well, let's get our priorities straight here. What's more
Wait,
important?
are they more upset about a bottle of alcohol than they are about this love jihad that goes on in India?
Yeah, they're more upset about the alcohol than that.
They're more upset about alcohol than they are about the child marriage and the and all that. The
Well,
grooming
David, you know,
gangs, the
they got
rape.
enraged about child marriage when Nupur Sharma, the BJP spokeswoman at the time, pointed out that Muhammad engaged in a child marriage. But
So when she said
otherwise,
when
yeah,
she stated a fact, that's what upset them.
yes, but
Okay,
otherwise they're
okay.
not upset about it.
Okay, that's weird. It's so weird because yeah, Muslim scholars will say, of course Muhammad married a 9-year-old girl, and that's why we should do it too. That doesn't upset them. But when someone says, hey, when a non-believer says, hey, Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, they, ah,
Yep. It's just
weird
like
religion.
our friend Hakikaju, who of course is on video endorsing marrying children in because he can't abandon Muhammad, and Muhammad did this. So he's you can readily find the videos on YouTube. But yesterday he was on the Twitter complaining that I had called him a pedophile. And I think, wait a minute, you're upset about this? You were defending it publicly, but this is the logic. This is how it works. So
Yeah, why wouldn't he thank you? Why wouldn't he thank you for
yeah,
speaking the truth?
I don't know. It's a mystery. His,
It's just like
the
it's just
complexity of
like
his thought. It's beyond us.
It's just like you can have 50 of their scholars and 500 of their Dawa guys all saying, "Yes, we're gonna take over the world, and we're gonna conquer the unbelievers, and we're gonna slaughter the apostates and the blasphemers, and so on." And yay, great, preach it, brother, preach, preach. And as soon as we say the exact same thing, hey, these guys want to take over, and they want to subjugate the world, and they want to kill the apostates and kill the blasphemers, and so on. And they go, "Oh, the bigots, the Islamophobes," and they complain about us and try to get us shut down. Like, what?
Yep.
How can we say the exact same thing you say and you get mad about it? It's weird. It's very, very
It's
weird.
a
Weird
pattern
religion.
going back years. I remember way back in 2003 when I first started Jihad Watch, and I would quote the various sheikhs saying this and that, Friday sermons, kill the unbelievers, subjugate the unbelievers, whatever. And then I believe it was the Organization of Islamic Cooperation started an Islamophobia observatory, and I thought, oh, that's neat. So they get telescopes, and look out for Islamophobia out in the stars. But anyway, their Islamophobia observatory more than once featured me saying, "This sheikh said this," and I thought, this is crazy because it's a terrible thing when I say it, but they don't have any problem when the original source who actually believes it says it. And
Yeah, they don't have any
that was
problem.
20 years ago.
Yeah, they don't have a problem with Muhammad saying that the end will not come until you fight the Jews, and the Jews are hiding behind rocks and trees. The
Hmm.
rocks and trees are saying, "Hey, here's a Jew behind me, come kill him." They don't have a problem with Muhammad saying it. They don't have a problem with Muslim preachers quoting it. As soon as we say that's what Islam says, then they lose their minds. It's so
Yeah.
weird. I don't know.
Well,
Isn't it weird? It's like their sources say it, and their scholars and their apologists and their dawagandists will all say it, but they really want us to say the opposite.
yeah.
I don't even know what's going. It's
Maybe it's
wow.
part of the subjugation that,
Hmm.
we have to, just like, even in a radically different context, Orwell with the totalitarian agenda, that you have to accept the reality that the party sets for you. War is peace, freedom is slavery, etc. etc. So 2 plus 2 is 5. And Islam is a religion of peace, and we can't notice these things. We're not allowed to do so. So, David, the moderates, though, they're going to save us all, right? The moderates are our hope, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what's going to happen, Robert.
That's exactly what's going to happen. And so I got a news item out of Germany. Did you make it over to Germany while you were in England, David?
Nope.
That is most unfortunate, yeah? In any case, we have a news story from Germany. What do they call it here? The Ibn Rushd Goethe Mosque in Berlin, which is okay with gay Muslims. And I believe they have or had a female imam. They don't hate Jews. They're a liberal leftist mosque. All right, and so I don't know how they can
Finally.
possibly justify their ideas by virtue of Islamic teaching, but that's their lookout. But in any case, they have been in the news this week, David, because as it turns out, oh yeah, they do have a female imam indeed, and it's a haven for gay Muslims. But 7 jihadis, migrants from Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan, entered Germany, and they have been plotting to blow this place up. Now, shouldn't they be applauding these moderates for providing a humane face of Islam for the world?
Yeah, and especially for helping us make sense of this leftist Islamist alliance that's been going on for years, right? Like we always wonder, how can these two things go together? And we finally have a mosque where we see exactly how these things go together, and they want to blow it up.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't get it.
It puzzles me too. It's just a mystery. But of course, we know that the female and gay Muslims in this mosque in Berlin, they're going to prevail over the jihadis. They'll just wrap them in a rainbow flag and Everything will be all right.
Yeah, they will.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the love affair between the love affair between Islam and the far left. It's the most beautiful relationship since O.J. Simpson and Nicole.
Yes, it'll have that kind of outcome as well. But the left doesn't know it
Mhm,
yet.
mhm,
All right,
mhm.
going to Nigeria. We got a lot of Nigerian news this week, but I thought one of the most interesting news items out of Nigeria this week, David, was not about a violent jihad, although there's plenty of that. But this is a member of the Islamic State West Africa province, and he doesn't know to separate the chairs from one another, so he's just sitting in both. And he
Mhm.
is lecturing. He's actually doing dawah and trying to gain recruits in Borno State in Nigeria. And what's most interesting, what struck me about this is that in the process of trying to gain recruits for the Islamic State West Africa province, the jihadis in Nigeria, one of the jihad groups in Nigeria, they are giving out rice, beans, sugar, let's see, yeah, rice, beans, millet, maize, sugar, spaghetti, and cash gifts. Now, why would they have to do that when the teaching, when the beauty of the teaching of Islam, doesn't the Quran say to win them over with wisdom and beautiful preaching in chapter 29, verse 46? So, why aren't they just relying on that?
Yeah, let's face it, Robert. No one ever converts for that stuff. Was pretty rare. Was pretty rare even in Muhammad's time. When Muhammad was just preaching Islam, he won very few converts, and it took him a long time. It wasn't until he started promising people what they wanted, right? It wasn't until, hey, fight for me, and we'll go out and either you survive the battle, in which case we take everyone's stuff and you return home safe. In his words, you return home safely with rewards and war booty, or you die fighting for him and you spend eternity deflowering virgins. So the message became about what people giving people, promising people what they want as long as they fight for you. So not a
So, there you
surprise, not a
go.
surprise there.
Yep, and maybe even if you're very good, he'll give you one of his chairs. All right,
Mm-hmm.
so we have also in Nigeria a very interesting story of a an attack in Yobe State. I hope I'm saying that correct. I don't think it could be Yobe State on the Biu Damataru Road. The jihadis stopped a car full of people and singled out the Christians and killed the Christians and let the other people who were apparently not Christians in the car go. Why would they do that? That doesn't seem very ecumenical.
Well, they're trying to wipe out the Christians there. They want to wipe out or convert the Christians there. As we pointed out many times, Nigeria, right down the middle of Nigeria, is one of the dividing lines between the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world, and their goal is to keep pushing that line further and further and further back. And Nigeria is one of the main spots in the world where they're trying to push that line back. And I've heard it said, if Nigeria goes, then the rest of Africa is going to go,
Yes,
and that's their
and
goal.
we have seen many times in many countries, notably in Kenya, also in Minnesota, in the mall in St. Cloud. There have been jihadis who asked people if they were Muslim or Christian and then attacked the Christians and let the Muslims go. Uh, and of course, we've discussed that before. We had also the murder of a farmer in Nigeria after the jihadis were trying to rape a 13-year-old girl. And the farmer tried to intervene and stop them and was thus killed. 13, that surely not, David. They must have thought she was 19, right?
Well, she's 13. That's a senior citizen and, for Muslims.
Yes.
By the way, Robert. So on the topic of Nigeria, I'm going to be um, on the channel, The Nigerian Perspective, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time. For everyone who wants to tune in for that. But that's Frank from the Nigerian perspective. Also, when I was in London, I had Nigerians walking up to me saying, "Hey, thanks to you and Robert for actually reporting on what's going on in Nigeria because no one else does."
Well, that's great. So everybody tune into that. Where can they see that, David? Tomorrow at 3 Eastern.
That is on the channel. Yeah, the channel's Nigerian Perspective. Nigerian Perspective on YouTube. Guy has a Frank has a big following there, and so going to go on there and talk about some things.
Fantastic. Don't miss it, folks. David Wood on the Nigerian Perspective tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. And so we got, another one in Nigeria. Since we're on it, unfortunately, I appreciate those gentlemen coming up to you in London about this, but there's just so much to report. It's terrible. And so we had another attack on a Christian community in Plateau State, and the pastor of an Assemblies God church, Dauda Dalyop, was murdered along with his wife, Chummy Dauda, and one, two, three, four others were injured. This is, of course, obviously something for the same reason. There was an attack on a fishing village in Borno State, at least 75 killed. Just people going about their business, fishermen trying to make a living. And as you noted, they're trying to push the line down between Muslims and non-Muslims and expand the domains of Islam in Africa. This is also happening in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not too far from Nigeria, more in Central Africa. Over 60 Christians were murdered in an attack in the Masala area of Beni in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. They were first told to convert to Islam, and they refused. So these are akin to the martyrs that we had in the Coptic martyrs in Libya a few years back, who were murdered by the Islamic State after refusing to convert, and now these 60 in the Congo join them as well. Also, there was an attack in the North Kivu province of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. At least 16 people killed, attacked with machetes while they were at home or working in their fields. And this is the Allied Democratic Forces, David, which is kind of an ironic name, but it's the ISIS group in the Congo.
Yeah, and the jihad in these areas is just relentless over the years, and these places are really like Nigeria is a really big place with a ton of Christians. That's why it kind of takes jihadis so long, right? But they're just relentless. They keep coming at them and coming at them and coming at them and coming at them, coming at them in these countries, and that's why the Christians just haven't been completely overwhelmed. Is that there's just a lot of Christians, but there are limits to how much people can take if the jihadis just keep coming, which is what they do, and if the rest of the world keeps ignoring what's going on.
Indeed. And so, what is the rest of the world doing? This is
Nothing.
a cab. That's correct, but worse. But wait, it gets worse. This is a cab driver in Malaysia. His face is what do you call it? Is blurred out here, but
Blurred.
unfortunately, there is a video that exists of him having a conversation with the passenger, and the video has gone viral in Malaysia. And as it turns out, the police are actually hunting for this poor fellow because he complained. Now, this is a 90-second video, David. So that's what, a minute and a half. He couldn't have said much, but he said that Muslims in Malaysia are trying to impose Islamic rules on the whole country, banning alcohol and gambling. And he was not happy about that. And he is now being hunted by the cops because he insulted Islam. So that's what's happening. We have all these murders going on in Malaysia, in Congo, etc., many other places, And then if you talk about it in another Islamic area, an allegedly moderate one, Malaysia, you get hunted by police.
Yeah. Hey, on a side note, because I was thinking about this is important stuff to talk about.
Yeah,
But I was in London for the North Atlantic Polemics Conference, the first annual North Atlantic Polemics Conference. So polemics dealing with Islam, how to respond to Islam. And I was thinking, wow, Robert should be here. He would be giving great presentations. Why weren't you there, Robert? What's wrong with you?
well, actually, David, I am forbidden by the British government from entering the country.
Huh. Wait a minute. They'll let all these jihadis there uh, proclaiming, calling for Sharia on the streets, calling for jihad often on the streets, and they'll let those guys in, but not you? Or is that what you're saying?
That's right, and it's actually the same reason because they are scared to death of those jihadis. They don't want to get them mad, and they thought that if I showed up on the streets in London, then they would riot, they would kill people, and they didn't want that. And so rather than confront the jihadis, which they should have been doing, and now it's getting very near too late if it isn't already too late, then they just banned me.
It's the it's the national imposition of the heckler's veto.
Yes, that's
Yep.
right. And
What
I
they
actually mounted a court case a few years back to overturn it, and they didn't even consider it. They just wrote back saying the government has the right to ban people from the country, which was we weren't even disputing that. We were just saying that they did not exercise it correctly or properly or justifiably in this case.
Mhm.
So we spent £20,000 on that for nothing, and since then it just seems to be a lifetime ban. I don't know. It's supposed to be 3 to 5 years, but it's gone on much longer than that. I know this because American Airlines and British Airways are paired, and American Airlines for years has been giving me trouble with extra security checks because I'm this
Hmm.
dangerous criminal. It's not allowed in Britain. If I fly other airlines, it's okay. So stay away from American Airlines, folks. But anyway, I don't know. They're just afraid of the jihadis, and that doesn't bode well for their future.
Mm-mm.
Did you see in London that most of the people on the street are not English?
Yeah, that was my experience when I was in the. I was thinking when I was in the area of Speaker's Corner, but yeah, I know there are areas where it's not like that. Every area where I was like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I was last there in 2009 before the ban and walked through areas of. We walked all over East London. Went into mosques. People ask me, what'd you do when you were in Britain? I said I did what any tourist would do. I went to the mosques, and we went into the Finsbury Park Mosque. We went into all these different mosques and walked through large stretches of London where it seemed like you could just as easily be in Pakistan. There's nothing
Mhm.
English about this. I mean, a lot of the signage was in English, but you would actually see that in Pakistan as well. Anyway, we got a lot more here, David. Shall we go to Austria? In Austria, we had a group of teenagers and young Muslims who got involved with the Islamic State, ISIS, and they started sharing execution videos, things like that, some of their favorite videos, and they set up their own mosque decorated with the ISIS flag
Mhm.
and planning to kill large numbers of non Muslims. Now, the fact that they set up this mosque of their own, David, that is an indication, is it not, that mainstream Islam is a religion of peace that would have rejected these guys, and they knew that. And so they had to set up their renegade mosque, right?
Yeah, that's the only reasonable interpretation of the evidence.
Yeah, that's it, man. Unfortunately, that is not the case. They probably did want to keep uh, they're planned secret for obvious reasons, but unfortunately, there was nothing they were doing that was against the mainstream teachings of the Islamic faith, which were expressed in Afghanistan recently. The Taliban had a public flogging, and they flogged 63 people,
Let's
including.
get it up. Let's get it up to 1,000.
They're working on it. They actually just said, the supreme leader just said that they were going to start flogging people, and then they've done it now. So I'm sure they're going to be stepping it up. But 14 of those were women who were accused of various crimes, mostly sexually related. And so I was thinking, well, they must be moderates, right? Because they only flogged them; they didn't stone them to death.
Very moderate. It's
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, we're on the way to peace, harmony, love, and justice. All right, let's go, since time is going so rapidly by, let's go to some stupid infidels. We have in France, where there's never a shortage of stupid infidels, we have a 35-year-old Sudanese migrant, a Muslim who is in the French city of Pau, P-A-U, Pau. And in Pau, he has been charged with convicted actually, of multiple arson attacks. This guy has torched 16 apartment buildings, numerous cars, and one church, at least one church. And it has just been decided that he is so valuable to France that he will not be deported.
Well, in his defense, Robert, the place is called Pow. So what did you expect him to do?
Yeah, indeed. It's too bad he didn't settle in peace, or anyway. But you know what the funny thing is that he was not deported because he would be. Let me get the exact words here. If he were deported to Sudan, the judge said, it would result in his death. And so I think they're okay with endangering French citizens by having him around. And he's obviously deeply destructive. But they don't want to endanger him by sending him back to Sudan.
No, we hear this all the time. You'll have someone will say, "Hey, let's bring in this jihadi from this other country. He's going to be in trouble in his own country, so let's bring him over to a European nation." And then he starts doing what jihadis do, and then we say, "Well, we can't send him back because he'll be in trouble in his own country with all this slaughtering people. So let's just keep him here and let him." It's way better to slaughter people here where he'll be safe than to send him back where he'll be in trouble.
Yes. And so I think somebody in the comments I've lost it now, but somebody in the comments had a good idea that to deport Macron to Sudan. And maybe make this guy the new president, because after all, that's where France is heading. And of course, so are we. We just had an Islamic State jihad plot in the United States, and it was just yesterday. It was announced that 6 jihadis from Tajikistan, Islamic State members, they strolled across the border from Mexico, which is of course open at this point, and were plotting jihad attacks in the United States. And so it looks as if we are going down the same road that Europe has already traveled. Also, just yesterday or today, we had the conviction of that fella. Hold on, I thought I had him here, but I don't. The guy in Kentucky, David. I believe we talked about him before, but it was maybe quite some time ago when he was initially charged. But let me get him here. You remember the guy in good old boy from Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And there he is. Sorry he's so big. Mirsad Ramek. And he is from Bosnia. He is a dual citizen of the United States and Bosnia. And he traveled to Islamic State jihad training camps out of Bowling Green. I mean, the camps wasn't in Bowling Green. He went from Bowling Green to join the camps. And he trained for Jihad, and then he was going to come back over here, David, and you just don't know what he was going to do. But I don't think it was going to be anything good or wholesome. And there he is. He was just found guilty of providing material support for ISIS and receiving military training from ISIS. And he was actually deported by the Turks to the United States. He was too much for Turkey, but we'll take care of him here. And he'll be out on the
Take
street.
him on over.
Yeah, you know.
Take him on over to. Take him on over to the Monster Truck and Tractor Rally. Yee-hoo. Watch Truckosaurus versus Fordzilla.
He'll be out in a few years. He'll be able to do that. Anyway, he'll probably run for Congress once he's out of jail there. Anyway, we also had Murat Kurashev. Now, I do not have a photo of Murat Kurashev, but Murat Kurashev is another Russian who walked across the border from Mexico, and he was found to be what the newspaper called an Islamic extremist, and he was connected to an Al Qaeda group, and so they caught him crossing the border. And then they released him into the United States. So we don't know where he is. Maybe he'll be at the door. You never know, David.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, it's just what happens nowadays. That's the world we live in. This is the Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that's her there with the blue. And then the fellow here in the yellow circle wearing the keffiyeh is a member of Antifa who was following along while Marjorie Taylor Greene was doing something, and he started to scream at her and a staffer, "Allahu Akbar, we are going to kill you." Not even clear if this gentleman is a Muslim or just one of the leftists who have decided that Islam is wonderful. But he issued this threat with the usual Allahu Akbar.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's spreading, David. You're going to need
it's what the young people refer to as based. The guy's being based.
Yes. As opposed to cringe, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, okay, this guy is totally based. This is an Islamic scholar named Abd ar-Rahman az-Zayud. And Abd ar-Rahman az-Zayud, he is very upset because of Queers for Palestine. And he does not want support from Queers for Palestine. As a matter of fact, he is even upset with the UN Relief and Works Agency, UNRWA, which is Hamas, essentially. It's another Hamas headquarters was just found in an UNRWA building, and UNRWA is all tied in with the jihad. But Abd ar-Rahman az-Zayud, who is himself a Palestinian Arab, he is not happy about this. And he says UNRWA, which ostensibly serves the refugees, has circulated a 69-page code of conduct to its employees, in which it called upon its employees to respect the homosexuals and their rights. And then he says, if this call clashes with the local culture, the laws and covenants of the United Nations which call for homosexuality must be followed. So what do they want from us? What do they want from this society that follows the Islamic culture, which sees homosexuality and lesbianism as punishable by death? They want us to respect this and strip us of our religion. Nobody ever asks Queers for Palestine what they think of those guys.
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting, this the dynamic of this odd relationship. You have tons and tons of people in the Muslim community that's happy to have this temporary alliance because it's convenient. They are happy to have every ally they can. They're happy to have any useful idiot on their side that they can. But you have some in the Muslim community who are wrestling to figure out why Allah isn't granting the Muslim community the victory over Israel and over the non-Muslims and so on. So they assume that Allah must not be blessing their work for some reason. So why isn't Allah with us? Why isn't Allah supporting us? There have been Muslim preachers coming out and saying it's because we're aligning ourselves with the LGBT community and Queers for Palestine and all that stuff, and we're marching side by side with these guys, and then we wonder why Allah isn't supporting us to conquer Israel. And so they have to look for some explanation,
Yep.
and so they're going. Some of them are going with that one.
And this is because the Quran is very clear that if you obey Allah, you will be blessed in this world and in the next. And if you disobey His law, you will suffer in this world and in the next. Now, this is actually a proof that Islam is not true, because the righteous Muslims do not always prosper in this world, and the unbelievers do not always suffer in this world. And while the Bible has a whole theology of this, and Judaism and Christianity have psalms that say, "Why do the wicked prosper?" and so on, and the whole idea of the cross preceding the resurrection, Islam has no idea of this. If you obey Allah, you're going to do well in this world, and so if you don't, then you have to find a scapegoat, and it must be that you're not righteous enough, and so Queers for Palestine, they got to go.
This, by the way, is one of the this whole situation right now. The things that are going on in the world right now. This is one of the silver linings to all of this messed up cloud that's cast over the world right now. Is that Mohammed Hijab did a poll several years ago, and he was asking Muslims when they have doubts about their religion, when they doubt whether Muhammad is a true prophet, when they doubt that it's true, what is it that's causing those doubts? What is it that's causing you to doubt Islam? And the number one answer was moral problems with Muhammad. That's the number one thing that causes Muslims to doubt that Islam is true. But also high up on the list was the weakness of the Muslim community. Why is the Muslim community so weak? Why is it weaker than Western nations? Why is it weaker than Israel? It's something, even though they're thumping their chest and, we're going to conquer the world, we're going to conquer Israel, they are deep down, they realize, why aren't we doing it? Why aren't we able to do it? Why do we have a quarter of the world's population and we can't defeat a few million Jews? We just can't do it, no matter how hard we try. And it's inwardly ripping them up. It's tearing them apart inside, going, why? It doesn't make any sense. If Islam is really true, we should be conquering these people. We should be strong. We should be dominating the world. And they're seeing that we've got a problem here. So hopefully this will be something. Matter of fact, I don't even need to say hopefully. It's going to. This is going to accelerate the avalanche of apostasy, because as much as they're screaming right now, they're not accomplishing anything with their screaming, and it's eventually going to catch on.
Well, David, I hope you're right, and I think you
I'm an
are.
optimist,
Actually.
Robert. An optimist.
Well, it is true that never before in human history has Islam been challenged the way it is today because of the internet. And you could grow up 500 years ago. You could grow up in Iran or Arabia, and you would never hear anything except the Islam and justifications for Islam and the Islamic perspective. Whereas now, all you have to do is go tune into This Week in Jihad, and you hear the truth you never heard before. Anyway,
but there is this awesome trajectory in that for all of Islamic history, they always have this strong Muslim empire until they always have this caliphate until they lose World War I. And then all of a sudden they don't have their caliphate. But then you had all these Muslim nations starting to look like Western nations. I mean, you're talking Iran and Afghanistan and so on. If you look at pictures of them from the 1960s, they look like Western nations, a lot of them, because they realized, wait a minute, Islam was supposed to dominate the world, and Islam just got crushed. Islam just got crushed by Western nations. I guess they have some advantage of us over us. I guess they're superior somehow. So we just need to adapt and realize we need to take the loss. But then you had the alternative interpretation of the Muslim scholars. The alternative interpretation was, oh, the reason they just dominated and crushed us is because we haven't been devout enough. We haven't been devout. That's the reason. Allah's not blessing us because we've been compromising. We haven't been enforcing Sharia. And so the idea was if we just crack down, and we become more devout and more strict in Sharia, then Allah is going to bless us. And so you get the Iranian Revolution, as far as the Shia world's concerned, you get the Muslim Brotherhood, and we're going to crack down. We're going to crack down. We're going to become more strict, and then Allah is going to bless us. And the ultimate fruition of this notion was ISIS, where we're just going to start slaughtering and cleansing the Muslim community from any sort of rebellion, any sort of hypocrisy. We're going to do it. We're going to do it all, and then Allah is going to bless us. And you see how that worked out for them. But anyway, it's you had all these movements to get back to a strict Islam, and that after we do this, then Allah is going to bless us to take over the world. Well, you've done that. You did that in the Shia world. You did that in the Sunni world. How's it working out for you? How are you dominating the world now? And so what's their excuse now? And they're running out of excuses for why Allah isn't blessing them.
Yeah, the mass apostasy in Iran is striking. After 40 years of strict Islamic rule, then you have 40% of Iranians now identify as Muslims. It's officially 99%. But there was a survey last year. Only 40% still say they're Muslims. They're so disgusted after living under Islamic law since 1979 that vast millions of Iranians have left Islam.
They're making our case for us.
And of course, it's going to keep happening here. We have a story that I think is going to lead to more of this kind of apostasy out of Hamtramck, Michigan, which is, of course, moving in the other direction right now. It is the city with the Muslim mayor, an all-Muslim city council. They have done various things that are clearly moving toward the implementation of Islamic law. And one of the most recent involves a local activist or an educator, and I don't know how to say this, David. Her name is Virginia Skrzynaiarz. I think she might be
sounded like
Polish.
Way too many consonants.
Yeah, Virginia. Somebody will be able to tell us how to say that. But anyway, the Poles used to be the somebody out of Warsaw. The Poles used to be the majority population in Hamtramck, and they no longer are, but there are clearly still a few around because this Virginia Skrzynaiarz, she is upset because she has discovered that the Muslim parents in Hamtramck public schools are getting music classes thrown out. They don't want music taught in the schools.
That's weird.
Why on earth? Why, David? Why would this be?
Because music is from the devil, Robert.
Yep. What happens if you listen to music?
It's just kind of, yeah, you're in all kinds of trouble. You unless it's like that humming kind, like that kind, then you're okay.
Yeah, nasheeds are okay. Jihad tunes, jihad hymns. But otherwise, music is forbidden in Islam. This is a rule. A lot of people still get upset about this one. You know, we've discussed many times, David, how many things that we have said over the years, and the Dawa guys all said, "Oh, you're lying," and now they don't. Now they say, "Yes, we love child marriage. Yes, we love polygamy, etc., etc., etc. Yes, of course, beat your wife," and all these things that they said we were lying for saying for years. But they still say you're lying if you say Islam forbids music, and this is one of the most ignored aspects of Sharia. But actually, Satan will urinate in your ears if you listen to music, and Allah will pour lead, I think, down your ears once he gets hold of you if you listen to music. It's bad. It's bad.
All kinds of bad stuff. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's not. We're not going to have music class in Hamtramck, but I suspect that a lot of young people will think Islam forbids music. Why? Maybe it's not as cool as the TikTok people told me it was. All right.
Yeah, it's one of those bait and switch. It's one of those bait and switch situations.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember years ago there
They'll
was a
even
guy.
they'll.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say they'll even do Muslim songs to Muslim rap songs and stuff like that to get people
Mm.
into Islam. And then, of course, once you're in there, hey, no more music for you, sucker.
Oh yeah, I remember that song. It was so catchy. Uh, you remember that one, "Dirty Kufar," from about 2003 or four, and it was all over the place for a while. But it was an openly jihadi song. You know, it was celebrating the destruction of the Twin Towers and Hamas and Hezbollah, and so you can't find it
Hey,
anymore. It's
hey,
been completely
was
suppressed.
that
But I
Cat Stevens? Was that a
no.
Cat Stevens song?
That was not a Cat Stevens song. Actually, though, interestingly enough, when Cat Stevens was not doing music, because music is forbidden, he did do a nasheed. And I think the nasheed is still on YouTube, Cat Stevens' nasheed, where he asks Allah for victory over the kuffar. And that one doesn't get a lot of play now when he's back singing the Peace Train. He should drag that one out on tour. But anyway, I was sorry that Dirty Kufar is gone. It was very catchy, and I used to play it every now and then. People don't know, but anyway, it's unfortunately I didn't save a copy before it disappeared from the internet entirely. But
Yeah, well, I've been to your house multiple times, Robert, and I can vouch for you that you like your music. You definitely like your music.
yeah, yeah, it's too bad, really. But this was apparently just too incendiary a jihadi tune. But the jihadis didn't seem to notice that they were getting themselves in some serious hot water with Allah by playing music, by making music. As touch as catchy as the song was, nonetheless. All right, out of Egypt, we have a couple of Christians. Let me see. I do believe I have their photos here somewhere. Somewhere. You know, the problem is they make these thumbnails so small. How is an old guy like me supposed to tell one from the other? Here we go. I caught it on the first try. This is, these are Abdul Baki Saeed Abdo and Nur Girgis. And they are Christians. And they have been in prison for 2 years now because they were taking questions on Facebook about Islam and Christianity. They had a Facebook group called Al Abarin, which means to cross over, and it was to help Muslims become Christian. Now, why would that get them in prison, David?
Well, you can't be doing that in Egypt, Robert.
Nope. In Egypt, even though it is not strictly speaking a Sharia state, Sharia has a tremendous heavy cultural influence. And what does Sharia say about Christians preaching to Muslims?
Yeah, can't be doing that. Like even if you're a Christian, you accept your dhimmi status. One of the rules is you're not going to be preaching. You're not even going to be saying things very loud. But it is. I mean, Muslims will thump their chests about not allowing Christians to preach in Muslim nations and so on, or to convert Muslims. But I mean, think about how weak that is, right? You can't give anyone the choice. You can't let people have the choice. You can't have people actually comparing the two religions and letting people make an informed decision. You can't have a situation where people are making an informed decision. You just can't do it. And it kind of tells you deep down like there's some awareness that if you let people discuss Islam openly, it's not going to work out well for Islam, and therefore you have to silence people.
Yep, it's tremendous weakness, and it is
It's
really
pathetic. It's
yes, yes, it is. Yeah, you know how pathetic it is, David. One of these gentlemen that I just was showing, Girgis, Nur Girgis, who I believe is on the right. I'm not entirely sure, however, but he has been transferred while in prison to a terrorism unit. Now, remember, his only crime was running a Facebook group discussing theology for Muslims who were interested in becoming Christian. And for that, he's considered a terrorist in Egypt. Anyway, we have the usual stories, David. We have in India, a Muslim rapes a Hindu girl, forces her to convert to Islam and marry him. In Greece, a Muslim migrant rapes a French tourist. We have in Rotherham is in England. There was another conviction, I believe, of more of these chaps engaging in sexual indiscretions. One of these so-called rape gangs in Rotherham. Let's see. I got a picture of the. Yeah, there they are. These are the 7 convicts in Rotherham of various sexual offenses. 3 named Muhammad. Then there's Yasser, Abid, Tahir, and Ramin. Why all the rapes? What is that all about? We got rapes
Yeah,
all over the world here.
when you said 7, I was thinking, okay, 3 or 4 of those guys are going to be named Muhammad, and you said 3,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's part of Islam that the unbelievers are their sexual property and so on. And so,
Mm-hmm.
in an ideal Muslim world, this would be actually conquering the unbelievers and so on. They understand they're not in a position to actually like conquer the land and so on as of yet, and so but they can go snatch up the girls.
Yes.
And what and why should they care? According to the Quran, the unbelievers are the worst of creatures. So they're garbage. Allah doesn't care about them. Allah has nothing but contempt about them. Why shouldn't you? Why shouldn't you do as you wish with them?
Precisely. Precisely. And so this is Suleiman Atai. And he is the man who stabbed to death in the neck a German policeman while he was in a going on the while Atai, that is, was going on a stabbing spree at a rally of Pax Europa, the Islam critical group there in Germany. And he also stabbed the Islam critic, the noted Islam critic, who has written at Jihad Watch, and I had the honor of meeting him when I was over in Germany a few times, Michael Sturzenberger. And Suleiman Atai, it's interesting to note, as he went on this stabbing spree, was not someone that the German authorities were worried about, because they said that he was well integrated.
Mm-hmm.
This was something that had been assessed by immigration officials, that he had essentially become German. He
Mm-hmm.
was a father of 2, had a German wife, practiced Taekwondo, and he was
So
thoroughly integrated into German society. So,
the
what do you
German
think
dream.
happened? Yeah, yeah.
No, it's got to be that sudden onset jihad syndrome that we've been hearing so much about. It's
And
weird. It's a mental
what
problem.
can you tell us what might have happened here for the sake of our audience at home?
Yeah, so to the uninitiated, it may look like this guy took Islam seriously and decided, um, and could be any number of reasons for taking Islam. He could have been planning on something like this all along, but it's also a situation where, as a Muslim, you think about all the sins you've committed, all the wrongs you've committed, and you understand the only one-way ticket you have to Jannah is if you start slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah and so on. And so you've got people who just say, "Okay, I need to take this seriously, and I need to go out and do something right now." So that's one possible explanation, but the real explanation is it's always got to be a mental problem, Robert. It's always got to be a mental problem because we know from hearing it endlessly for decades now that Islam's a religion of peace and tolerance. So the only possible explanation for someone deciding to kill in the name of Islam is a mental illness. So we don't have a there's nothing. I've got the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders. There's nothing in there about sudden onset jihad syndrome, but it has to be. It needs to be included in the DSM-6.
Mhm.
You've got to include this because we know it has to be a mental problem, because there's no way any rational person could read the Muslim sources calling for the violent subjugation of the world and jihad against unbelievers and so on, and conclude that this is calling for the violent subjugation of the world and jihad against unbelievers. No
Yeah,
possible way to
couldn't be.
interpret it that way.
That's
No.
right.
So one, yeah,
So it actually, paradoxically, it could be the fact that he was well integrated that led him to go jihad,
exactly.
to try to wash away all the sins that he had committed by getting integrated in Germany.
Exactly. So it's similar to when you have a Muslim family, and we read about an honor killing in the West where the daughter became integrated into society, and so her father or brother or whatever decide we have to kill her for becoming westernized. You can actually do this to yourself. You can say, wait a minute, I've become westernized. I'm in trouble with Allah unless I redeem myself. How am I going to redeem myself? Well, here's a knife.
Hmm. And here's Sturzenberger, the most prominent critic of Islam in Germany. It's like stabbing Rushdie. It's very big. People don't know, of course, in the Anglophone world, but it was a very great evil that was done. In any case, David, looks like we're out of time for Jihad this week. There is no more time for Jihad this week. Unfortunately,
You hear that, jihadis?
That's right. You got to desist now. It's over. But they'll just start racking up our program notes for next week, and so next week, yeah, I think I'm back. I got a trip in between, but I'm back by Wednesday. So anyway, until then, keep your powder dry, pray, hope, and don't worry.